Peace, peace, peace. I hope you are doing lovely today. And yeah, welcome. This is going to be the breakdown of your houses. So, this is going to be the first session. Within this session, we are going to be discussing the first through the sixth house. And then in the next session, we'll talk about the seventh through the 12th house. Then the third session will cover the planets. The third and the fourth will be about the planets, and then the fifth we'll talk about the aspects where we'll be putting it all together. But yeah, so in this first session, the houses which we'll be discussing are those houses that are below the horizon. So these are energies that deal more so with your private life, right? The houses below the horizon are more so concealed, more so hidden, more so private. And then in the next session, we'll talk about your public houses, which are more, exposed to the world to see and things like that. And you have both. It's interesting. You have both your sun and your moon within public houses. So we'll get into that later. But for now, let's talk about the first house, right? So what is the first house? First and foremost, the first house is a personal house. The first, the 12th, the second, and the third, these are all personal houses. They are things that deal with with you personally. You feel me? And so the first house is the most personal house. It's the first energy, right? It's naturally connected with the energy of Aries. And Aries is all about like the I am, the ego, So it's very much like the first house energy. It very much deals with the experiences that are one-on-one, those experiences that you kind of have by yourself or isolated, or that deal with you personally. You feel me? So we have different departments of life, and one of those departments of life is like us, and things like self-development can very much be a good way to capsulating that energy of the first house, right, which is the house of the self, the house of the personality, the house of things like health, things like one's personal skills and attributes, things like one's desires, one's interests. These are all first house energies. But yeah, so your first house is within the sign of your first house is within the sign of Libra. So it's 29 degrees Libra. So that means there's really only 1 degree that's in Libra, and then the rest of the degrees within your first house are Scorpio. So 29 degrees. And so what this ultimately goes on to mean is that you have energies. There are energies that deal with Scorpio that are within your first house, but those energies are more dormant. The primary energy that's being broadcasted into your first house is the Libra energy, because that's where the cusp sign happens. That's where the cusp is. And so getting into this, right, first and foremost, let's talk about the chart. Not the chart, the chart ruler to an extent, because the first house to an extent signifies the chart ruler, but there's other aspects that we'll cover later that will truly help us understand your chart ruler. But first and foremost, right, when it comes to your first house ruler, the planet that rules your first house, the first planet that comes to mind, or that is ruling over your first house, would be Jupiter, right? And this is because Jupiter is within your first house, and Jupiter is the sign. It's the only sign in your first house, and it's the sign closest to the first house cusp, So Jupiter is your first house ruler, and then Venus is your second first house ruler. And this is because Venus, right, rules the sign Libra. So by like affinity, by same energies, Libra rules the first house. And so the first house is this energy that we've in a sense already kind of encapsulated and discussed. And so for you within your first house, it's very Librian energy. So it's very interesting with the Libra energy. And this is because the first house is Aries, right? And Libra is actually the opposite sign to Aries. So what happens when people kind of have this backwards type of energy, you can kind of say, where they have the house and its opposite element, then the individual's life in of itself kind of gets like flipped upside down, if that makes sense. In the sense that, like, with Libra, right? Libra is the sign of partnerships. It's the sign of others. It's the sign of relationships and things like that. But the first house is the sign of the self, the me, the I. Like within your first house, this is where you need to be selfish, because this is where your personal life, like your personal interests are concerned. And so, where the first house things are related, you may kind of be a very much like people person, like a people pleaser. You may not completely be assertive like that. You may at times find yourself kind of compromising and doing a lot of compromises in regards to your experiences in relationships, and to an extent allowing for you to flow the path of least resistance. Because the thing with Libra is its weakness is that it's very uncombative, right? Like Libra doesn't like arguments, it doesn't like confrontation, it doesn't like issues. But the strength associated with Libra is that it is very kind, and Libra tends to make friends rather easily rather than difficultly, you feel what I'm saying? And so, of course, like where your Venus is and all this other good stuff are definitely worth things worth taking into consideration and taking a look at, because Venus is ruling over your first house. So the placement that Venus is in is going to be significant, but what's going to be more significant is Jupiter. Now, with you having Jupiter in your first house, but Jupiter being in the sign of Scorpio instead of Libra, this kind of influences the Jupiterian energy, kind of influences your first house in a manner where there's kind of grace and like divine intervention type of energy that takes place for you, where things that deal with like that Martian Scorpio energy are concerned. And so Scorpio is rather an energy of rather gruesomeness. It's kind of heavy, somewhat dark, somewhat ferocious, just kind of scary type of energy, and very intense. So with Jupiter being in the sign Scorpio within your first house, on one end, because Jupiter amplifies things, but fortunately Jupiter, it's the way that it expands and amplifies things, it's usually in a good way. So this can really mostly just add on to your energy, where it'll add more charisma and magnetism and kind of sexual energies about you as well. But yeah, you know what? That's kind of beside the point, because this isn't the place for us to talk about the planets just yet. Right now, we're focusing on the houses. But yeah, I brought up Jupiter because Jupiter is also influencing your first house. You feel me? But for the most part, with the Libra energy in the first house, it's polar energies. It's kind of contradictive energies, where it's like where you need to stand up and assert yourself in, where it may be things like what you want to do versus what a partner may want to do. You feel me? In those areas, it kind of may be, you may find yourself falling short there. And Libra is very much the sign that beyond just dealing with partners and personal relationships, it also deals with the relation that one has with the public. And so your personal life may be very influenced by public affairs and public conducts and things like that. You feel what I'm saying? And furthermore, so the key phrase for Libra is a balance. You feel what I'm saying? So because the key phrase for Libra is a balance, within your personal life, it's of great significance and value for you to find equilibrium. And equilibrium is like the key word, right, that encapsulates the energy of Libra. It's all about finding balance and equilibrium. And so people a lot of the times confuse Libra for being balanced, but it's not so much that Libra is balanced in of itself, but it's more like Libra is a scale, and using that scale you can attain balance amongst things. You feel me? And a couple energies about Libra. Libra is very much inclined towards justice and equality for all, fairness for all, type energy. Libra is very much interested and encapsulated into energies of literature, writing, communications, uh, one-on-one relationships. So the thing with this energy here is that within your life, there can at times manifest like this codependency energy kind of amongst you and your partners, right? Where it's like if you have Libra in your first house, then that means you have Aries in your seventh house, which would kind of make this type of energy where it's like where your personal life is concerned, you may kind of allow your partners and other people to kind of direct the energy there. But where your partnership energy is concerned, that's where you may find yourself looking for yourself and seeking to be put on like a pedestal. And that may be the areas where you may kind of feel entitled, like, and we'll get into the seventh house later and like what I mean by that energy. But it's like, because you're supposed to find balance and harmony in relationships, and you're supposed to find assertive energy and control and your own drive and your own ambition within your first house. That's kind of flipped, what I'm saying. But yeah, so that's pretty much like the first house. Now let's get into the second house. So the second house, this is the house of personal resources. It deals with things like money, things like personal possessions. And in general, this house, beyond just dealing with money and wealth, physically speaking, right? It also deals with like intangible wealth. You feel me? Things like maybe you having certain skill sets that you find to be very valuable and very very valuable and very I'll leave it at that, very valuable, right? So it can be certain skills and things that you have that are personally to you that equate to personal resource. You feel me? And so where it's interesting, because where your second house is in the sign Scorpio. And so the sign Scorpio and the sign Taurus are kind of polar opposites, right? Taurus is key phrases I have, right? And the second house is all about having. Taurus is like the energy that encapsulates, or the word that encapsulates the energy of Taurus is possession, possessiveness. Taurus is all about acquiring things and possessing things. Now, Scorpio is kind of on the other side, right? Scorpio's energy is more about like desiring, right? It's like I desire, I want. And so on one end, because Scorpio has this tremendous amount of ability to desire and want things, eventually you will and you can lead yourself to wealth and abundance and prosperity. But the thing about the desire energy and desiring, typically when we desire something, it's because something in a sense outside of us kind of makes us want it, right? Like you desire a person, before you can desire that person, they have to be in your immediate environment, So with the Scorpio energy, it's more about like seeing, like wanting things, but wanting things from the perspective of you don't have that thing, so now you want it, right? And so what happens here with the second house in Scorpio is there can kind of be like this vortex or this void type of energy where personal resources are concerned, where like maybe one's personal resources may be greatly entangled with others, right? Because Scorpio is a sign, it's associated with the 8th house, and the 8th house is the house of public resources. And so this energy of public resources can be encapsulated within your partner's resources, other people's money, other people's wealth, and that type of energy. Feel me? So even with you having your moon in the 8th house, which we'll get into later, right? There is this kind of affinity and type of energy where it's like you and your ability to access other people's money or other people's wealth, your partner's wealth, or like loans, grants, public resources of all kinds. Like that's kind of where like the energy is at. When Scorpio goes into the second house, you feel me? And so with this energy, it's kind of like simultaneously also valuing things that are more so intangible rather than tangible things. Valuing things like maybe wanting and desiring to be like a millionaire, for example, right? But not really getting it into the physical, tangible expression of, if you want to be a millionaire, this is the things that you have to sacrifice. This is what you'll need to involve yourself with, and this is the work you need to do, right? Like Scorpio is not Taurus, right? The opposite sign to Scorpio. And because Scorpio is not Taurus, and because Taurus is a very practical, very grounded sign, Scorpio kind of is not so much grounded, but more so anchored in the realm of wanting and desiring things rather than going out and getting it. So there can sometimes even be this energy of like entitlement with Scorpio in the second house, where it's like you may not do the work for what it is that you desire, but you may just feel like you want it. And so the benefit and the value of this energy in the second house is the more you can learn about like the laws of manifestation and like the law of attraction, and the more you can learn about intentional emotions, the more you can learn how to cultivate your emotions and like direct your emotions, the more wealth you can in turn produce and create. But it's like a lot of the times with the second house and Scorpio energy, kind of produces this slippery slope type of energy of wanting things but not completely knowing how to tangibly get to them, or being willing to do things that can be immoral to get to the money, if you know what I'm saying, or to get to the personal resources. But yeah, it's pretty much like the second house. And if you have any questions about the second house or any of these houses we're talking, do be mindful that I am going to offer you that follow-up session where it's like a clarity session where I can clear up anything for you, things like that. Yeah, for sure. That's pretty much the second house. And your second house is ruled first by the planet Uranus, because Uranus is within that house, like it's present in that house. So first Uranus, and then second, your second house is ruled by the planet Mars, right? Because Mars rules Scorpio. And Uranus is a very like disruptive sign, very eccentric, very all over the place. And so that may kind of add energy into your viewpoint on wealth and your viewpoint on just material possessions and things like that. But with Aquarius, Uranus, with Uranus being in the second house, it kind of just points towards and indicates that you should follow paths of wealth that are like alternative or that are uncommon, because Uranus is a very untraditional sign, what I'm saying. So Uranus also rules the internet, so finding ways to make money on the internet even would be something that could be in alignment with you. But we'll get more into that later when we talk about the planets and we get into Uranus. And then, well, actually, the second planet ruling your second house is actually Neptune. So the first is Uranus, the second is Neptune, and then the third is Mars, because Neptune is also in your second house. Now, to get into discussion about your third house. So the third house, this is the house that deals with one's mental environment, right? So this is the department of life that more so, like I said, these are personal houses, right? We talked about the second house, which deals with personal resources. We talked about the first house, which deals with the personal life. Now we're talking about the third house, which deals with one's mind, the environment of the mind. So the third house, it deals with the immediate physical environment, but simultaneously it also deals with the immediate mental environment. So it doesn't deal with the subconscious mind per se, those thoughts that are deep rooted within your mind, but it more so deals with like your mental scape currently, like the thoughts that you are encountering and engaging with. Encountering and engaging with, right? You keep those two words in mind, because the third house is not only a house, a personal house, but it's also a house of association. So there are 3 houses of association in astrology: the third house, the 7th house, and the 11th house. These are all houses of associationship. Now, there are also houses of wealth. We just got done talking about a house that deals with wealth. So the 2nd house, the 6th house, and the 10th house are houses of wealth. And then the 1st house, 9th house, and 5th house, these are the houses of life. They rule with things that are in life, So yeah, the 3rd house is the house of associationship. And it deals with your thoughts. And this is because in so many ways your thoughts, like you encounter and you engage with certain thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So the more you can get this to a practice, like a science and a practice, the better for you, especially with your moon in Gemini. And what I mean by this is the more you can learn to manage and manage like the thoughts that you encounter and engage with, the better in a sense that your life will become. Feel me? And we'll get into the moon, because your moon is in the 8th house in Gemini, so that's a completely different story, But anyways, that's what the 3rd house is. It deals both with your internal environment in regards to your thoughts, and your external environment in regards to, because your external environment is but a looking glass back into your mind. So the things that are around you are reflective to what's inside your mind, Now, also, hold on, give me a sec. I was about to, right. So also the 3rd house also deals with immediate people, like people that are in your environment. And this, like, it rules siblings, because, typically the siblings are the first ones that you encounter with as a child, right? And your siblings contribute greatly to the development of your mind, right? They enable you communication and social type energy. They're the first, right? The 3rd house also deals with like schoolmates, for example. Let's say you go to school, went to school, right? So it also rules with like your neighbors. It also deals with the neighbors, right? And so, but it's not so much of a companion house. It's a house of association, but the 3rd house, like, it more so deals with your own personal association. And the people closest to you are very much reflective to your own energy. The neighborhood you live in is very much reflective to your own energy. Your neighbors reflective to your own energy, etc., etc. Now, with you having your 3rd house within the sign or within the energy of Sagittarius, so this is like a polarity that's not too bad. It's not too bad, because Sagittarius and Gemini, they're somewhat similar, right? Sagittarius is the opposite sign of Gemini. In the 3rd house, Gemini naturally is in the 3rd house, but in this case, the 3rd house is in its opposite energy, Sagittarius. And so what happens here is kind of where your immediate thoughts are concerned, there's kind of this philosophical trend that manifests within them, in the sense that you may find yourself thinking through a mode of thought where it's like every single thing that happens, every single thought that you may entertain and that you may have, you kind of make it somewhat like philosophical and spiritual, right? I like to use the term religious when I talk about Sagittarius, but a lot of people don't like that word, so I'm trying to avoid it. But religion, right? We all, in a sense, have a religion, in the sense that ultimately religion is meant to instill within us codes of ethics and codes of morals that guide our actions and guide our attitudes towards things. And because we all have a philosophy on life, we all have certain morals and ethics that we, in a sense, follow. In a more general perspective, and in broader perspective, we're all religious, but in the precise, objective, literal reason, yeah, not really religious, right? But that's like when I use the term religious, I think about it from the broader perspective. You feel what I'm saying? And so with the third house in Sagittarius, yeah, there is most definitely this energy of kind of not mystifying, in a sense, mystifying things, but continuously being like in contact with higher thoughts and higher ideologies and higher perceptions on what life could be and what life should be. It's kind of like Sagittarius looks at the bigger picture. Meanwhile, Gemini kind of looks at the little picture. You know what I'm saying? So Sagittarius in the third house definitely encapsulates that energy of looking into the bigger picture and seeing like what things fit and what things don't. You feel what I'm saying? And kind of not allowing, like, I feel like people who have their energy in people who have their third house in Sagittarius are people that are more likely to, like, in a sense, attain illumination and in like enlightenment, because their immediate thoughts are already very much tuned into that energy of just thinking on a higher channel. Now, when it comes to the energy of Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius holds the decans of devotion, the decans of exploration, and the decan of illumination. So what this all means is that with you having this with you having this in your third house, you are very much a student. You're very much explorative. You like to explore. But Sagittarius, being a fire sign, deals more with exploring through experience. So this may even make you a type of person who you may not want to have information, but for you, reading a book and getting that information is not enough. You may be a type of person who may want to kind of test the waters, engage, you know what I'm saying, and try it out, in the sense that polarity between Gemini and Sagittarius is kind of like Gemini is the student, Sagittarius is the teacher, first and foremost, right? And so, yeah, like this may also make you a type of individual who you may enjoy teaching as you learn. Like when you learn things, one of the energies that may be there for you is wanting to teach it to others. You know what I'm saying? And furthermore, the polarity here between Gemini and Sagittarius is Gemini is like knowledge, Sagittarius is like wisdom. And in order for us to acquire wisdom, right, we have to, in a sense, experience. And so that's why Sagittarius wants the third house, and Sagittarius kind of wants to take it another notch in experience. You feel me? And so the key phrase for Sagittarius is comprehension, right? And so it wants to comprehend things. It wants to illuminate itself, right? It wants to get illuminated. And it's of paramount importance with this third house energy in Sagittarius that you, in a sense, adapt some sort of philosophy in your day-to-day thinking, some sort of higher perspective and higher perception on your day-to-day thinking. You feel what I'm saying? And so the key phrase for Sagittarius, the key thought trend or affirmation for Sagittarius is I see. Sagittarius is all about sight. It's all about seeing. And Sagittarius' strength is in its, in a sense, charitableness. It can be very, very giving. It's very, very ambitious, right? That's one of its strengths as well, in its ambitiousness, if you know what I'm saying. But Sagittarius' weakness is in its sportiveness. It can be very competitive, you feel what I'm saying? So where your mental energies are concerned, you may be very ambitious in regards to wanting to reach the highest thoughts possible. But simultaneously, there may be the sportiveness of wanting to be competitive with other people in regards to your way of thinking, which may be somewhat negative. But yeah, it's pretty much like the third house in Sagittarius. Now, the fourth house. Your fourth house would be in the sign Capricorn. And so this is a polarity where it can get a bit difficult. And hold on, before I get into the third house, let me look at your before I get into the fourth house, let me look at your third house. So your third house, there really aren't any planets in your third house. So your third house is ruled by Jupiter, right? Jupiter is your third house ruler. Yeah, third house ruler. Hold on, give me a sec. And so as far as your fourth house, so let's see. So your fourth house is ruled by Saturn. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. So hold on, give me a second and look at something real quick. So actually, it looks like your third house is in the sign Capricorn, not the sign Sagittarius. Okay. So your third house is actually in Capricorn and not Sagittarius. So yeah, okay. So the way that energy is going to express. So with you having your third house in Capricorn instead of Sagittarius, Capricorn and Sagittarius, they're kind of very opposite energies. Sagittarius is all about like freedom of thought, freedom of expression, and everything I explained earlier, right? And it turns out that that's actually not the energy within your third house. It's actually Capricorn. And so with you having Capricorn in your third house, what this all means is that, see, Capricorn is a sign that's very, very restrictive. It restricts energy, if what I'm saying. So in actuality, what this can mean is that instead of your thoughts being grandiose and ambitious, it can rather mean that there have been certain thoughts that are probably originated from the world, because Capricorn belongs to the third emanation, meaning it's like the last earth sign. So it's very dealing with the energies of the world, right? Like that, like the last earth energy is what came last, right? And what came last is, like, in a sense, the material world that we live in currently, if that makes sense. Like, I guess to us, we may think that it's new because it's just recent. It recently came into existence, right? But it's actually old. Yeah, it's actually old because there are many, many different things that came into existence before it. Dang, so I can't even use old and new. But that's beside the point. So what I'm trying to explain here is that the concept of Capricorn is not so fresh like the energy of Taurus, right? Taurus is the first earth sign. So although Taurus is the first earth sign, making it the oldest, the energy of Taurus is more fresh in regards to earthly energy than the energy of Capricorn. Capricorn is more old, if that makes sense. And so it deals with the world around us and what the world kind of has accepted to be reality and to be truth, where physical things are concerned. And so there can be this energy of where your mind is concerned, of you kind of having certain thoughts that may be very, very heavy, thoughts that are encapsulated and surround, like, um the the approach towards like status. Like, okay, so Capricorn is a sign that very much deals with status. It deals with climbing the the corporate ladder. If you know what I'm saying, that's very much Capricorn. And so, because it's in your third house, rather than rather than Sagittarius being in your third house, it kind of indicates that your energy, where your mind space and your mind frame is concerned, is a bit like concentrated into the material crystallizations of the world, like kind of feeling like in order for you to so hold on, my bad. The fact that I kind of spend that time explaining your third house in Sagittarius kind of threw me off, right? So let me recenter myself real quick. I mean, there's still a slim possibility that it may be in Sagittarius. Like, I have to go and look at the exact degrees because it's not really obvious. It's not really showing, within your chart. But it looks like it may be in Capricorn instead of Sagittarius. But there's a possibility that it may be like 29 degrees Sagittarius, right? But anyways, with the Capricorn energy, Capricorn is very, very heavy. It deals a lot with responsibilities. It deals a lot with the external world. It deals with status. It deals with work, right? Capricorns are typically the workaholics. Capricorn deals with, in a sense, restrictions and limitations. And Capricorn's way of thinking is not so expansive, but instead it's more conservative and more reserved in its way of thinking. So this may even make you somewhat of a conservative thinker. And when I say conservative, I mean like a person who may kind of believe and think that, like, instead of kind of hold on to certain ideologies and beliefs that are conservative, meaning conserving the old world, or rather than innovative, more so, okay, this is how things have worked and this is how things are going to always work, and so there's no need to fix something that's broken type of way of thinking, And so Capricorn, the cool thing about the Capricorn energy in the third house is Capricorn is a very, very like opportunistic sign. Its key phrases I use, and it's all about utility, utilizing things. So Capricorn can use the things in front of it to its greatest advantage. So because this is your third house energy, it may be an indication that you're a type of person who knows how to turn your thoughts or use your thoughts and turn your thoughts into tangible things that you can use. So instead of just scatterly thinking, because there isn't really any planets in the third house, it doesn't per se mean that this is energy you're going to experience, because you have Gemini, your moon in Gemini in the 8th house. So Gemini is the energy of the third house. So your moon in Gemini in the 8th house is kind of going to overtake your thought energy. And overtake that energy. And moon in Gemini in the 8th house is kind of channeling it towards a rather somewhat dark place, we can kind of say. And with Capricorn being in your third house, Capricorn is a very dry, cold sign, so like your mental space may be, rather than a place where growth and nourishing type of energies may exist, it may kind of be a desert-like type of energy. And you may need to learn to cultivate like a mental garden, right? You need to learn to plant certain flowers, certain fruit trees, and things like that to the soil of your mind, you feel what I'm saying, with the Capricorn energy being here. So the strength with Capricorn is in its diplomatic energy. Very diplomatic, right? It knows how to, in a sense, work with other people to get what it wants. So this may make you a type of person who you may have like the right thoughts to to like introduce where business settings are concerned, but yeah, so also another thing about this energy of Capricorn is its weakest energy is its deceptiveness. And so this can even mean that sometimes, because Capricorn is an earth sign and it's the last sign, sometimes mentally you may be in a space where you may take things completely for face value for what they are, and you may be deceived by your own thoughts. It's like when it comes to our thoughts, a lot of our thoughts are based upon what we register from our external world through our five senses. And our senses aren't always reliable, right? Sometimes you think you heard something, or sometimes you think you saw someone, or or even smell, right? Sometimes you'll think you smell something, but it's not what you thought, right? So with Capricorn, like, I guess the thoughts can have this deceptive type of energy to look to overcome, right? To need to navigate through and overcome. Now let's talk about your fourth house. So your fourth house is in the sign Aquarius. It is in the sign Aquarius, and it is 5 degrees of Aquarius. But yeah, no, 100% later, I would definitely look into it for you, because there's still a chance that you may have your third house in Sagittarius. But anyways, your fourth house is in Aquarius. It's 5 degrees Aquarius. That's more obvious. Your fourth house is in Aquarius. Your fifth house is in Pisces. So now to discuss your fourth house. So with your fourth house being in Aquarius, this can indicate two things. One, that possibly where your home life is concerned, you may have felt alienated. You may have felt like you were amongst family, but let's talk about the fourth house before I get into Aquarius energy. The fourth house deals with the home life. It's a companion house, right? And it deals with the companions of the home. It deals with domestic energies in general. Man. Yeah, it deals with domestic energies in general. And the fourth house is a private house, right? We already talked about it's a private house. And it's a water house. It's a psychic house. And so what this means is that it kind of deals with the psychic influences that your ancestors have upon you, by being like the house of Cancer and being like the house of family. It deals with the lineage as well. And it kind of has this influence, spiritual influence upon you. And so first and foremost, with you having, hold on, before I move forward, let me look at your third house again. So yeah, your third house is just, it's either only ruled by Sagittarius, by Jupiter or by Saturn, right? And I'll clarify that later. Now, your fourth house is completely ruled by Saturn. So with your fourth house being in Aquarius, this can kind of be an energy of feeling like an alien in your own family, like feeling isolated and wanting, even though there may be this desire to want to connect with family and connect with the companions of the home, there may be this feeling of like you being way too far from them, or and this can even be because of your way of thinking or your way of perception on life, But yeah, like with the ninth house, not ninth house, with the fourth house in Aquarius. Let's talk about Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of, like, it's fixed air, right? Air is just in general intellect, communication, and associationships. And so, with that being said, with Aquarius, right, being the sign of, like, okay, so Aquarius is the last air sign. So Aquarius is a sign of association and relations, but it doesn't deal with one-on-one relationships or the relationship with the self like Gemini does. But Aquarius deals with, like, relationships among strangers, relationships that deal with business, relationships that deal with networking. Aquarius is like that energy of you not knowing people, but for some reason you being having to network with them or communicate with them, right? So it can be like people that you work with in a business setting, like you don't really know them, you don't know their personal life. There's more like a persona that is put on for the social field, social arena. So it's very much Aquarius energy. And so Aquarius. Hold on. Because of this, and because Aquarius doesn't deal with intimate one-on-one relationships like Libra does, Aquarius tends to find itself somewhat isolated and somewhat alone, you feel me? And at times, because Aquarius is networks, at times there may be this feeling or this energy of feeling more connected with strangers rather than the immediate family, but it's ultimately an isolating, alienating type of energy that can even stem from possibly you having certain interests and certain likes that just may be very, very strange and weird to your family, and your interests and your likes may kind of not oppose, but square, or oppose, like the custom or the tradition, right? Because Aquarius is a very unconventional, very untraditional type of energy. And so this can even be an indication that possibly you grew up in a very unconventional and very untraditional family, or furthermore that even today, like, your home life and your family is rather unconventional and untraditional. And it can be extreme, or it can be very simple things that make it unconventional. You feel what I'm saying? But yeah, like, that's the fourth house. And so because Aquarius, so the fourth house is like family, right? And because Aquarius is an air sign and it's like the most detached of the air signs, there can be this energy where it's like emotion wasn't fully there in the home life, and emotion doesn't easily manifest amongst, like, companions of the home family, but it's more like everyone is kind of in their own energy and everyone gets to do whatever they want. And so within your household there may be this inspiration towards being your own self, being unique, right? Because Aquarius is also a unique type of energy of being your own self. And so there can either be this energy of, because of your uniqueness and your own selfness, you can be opposed by the family or you can be embraced by the family. But typically there's kind of this opposition type of energy that may come forth because of how unique the energy is and how different it is, But yeah, that's like the fourth house, which is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is like a rather restrictive planet that kind of puts boundaries and things like that, on people. But now let's get into your fifth house, which is in the sign Pisces. So your fifth house is within the sign Pisces, and it looks like it's 9 degrees Pisces. So with your fifth house being within the sign Pisces, what this means and what this indicates is that you are very much a sort of individual who... Okay, so before we get into that, let's talk about what the fifth house signifies and what the fifth house represents. So the fifth house is the house of partners, like intimate like it's like one night stands. It's like one's dating life. It's like how one entertains themselves, how one has fun, right? It's like the house of parties, and it's also like the house of creativity, artistic creativity, which is creativity in general, how you express yourself creatively. And it's also the house of offsprings, children, and things like that. Now, first and foremost, because you have this house within the sign Pisces, where like sex and things like that are concerned, you are very much a type of person who you're very much a type of person who hold on, give me a sec, I kind of got distracted just now. You're kind of a type of person who doesn't want or doesn't like to experience like this modern energy, modern day of there being this kind of promotion towards being free sexually. Like, okay, Pisces is very much a very connected sign, and so for you, when you have like an intimate connection with an individual, emotions are very much associated and entangled. And it's also because you're like a Cancer, right? Yeah, also because you're like a Cancer, and also because like you have your moon in the 8th house. So there's very much this encapsulating type of energy. I think that also contributes to this 5th house Pisces, where it's like you're not really a type who can just have sex with someone and it's just being that, but like there's this connection, emotional connectivity that takes place, And so Pisces is a type of sign that needs emotional connection where like sexual encounters are concerned. But furthermore, with you having Pisces in the 5th house, what this indicates and what this would mean for you is that you are sort of a person who, where your artistic energies are concerned, like Pisces rules the imagination. So this can possibly make you a very imaginative person, especially where the art energy is concerned. So when you tap into this area of life that deals with artisticism, then your greatest leverage and your greatest advantage is like tapping into maybe your dreams, taking things from the dream world and making an art piece from it. Like that's very much in tune with the Pisces in the 5th house. Or even tapping into your unconscious mind and bringing artistic expressions from your unconscious mind. This can possibly even be like going into psychedelic trips and coming back and making psychedelic art, if you know what I'm saying. Very much like that Pisces energy. Pisces is very much like when I think of Pisces, Pisces is art. When I think of Pisces as art, I think like very vivid colors like just wonky type of energy too in regards to its color. It's not a confined sign, but it's a free expression sign, like because it's ruled by Jupiter, right? And Jupiter is all about freedom and expansion. And so furthermore, with Pisces being in the 5th house, right, and Pisces ruling over offsprings and children, this can be an indication that you may have great spiritual connections with your children, or you may have spiritual children more than physical children, or I can even express like that. But yeah, I would say that's pretty much that for the 5th house and Pisces. Now the 6th house. So the 6th house is the house that deals with work. It deals with labor. It deals with it's a house of acquisition, right? It's a house of wealth. And so I already mentioned this earlier when I talked about the trinities of the houses. But the fifth house is the house of life, right? So it's like how you experience life. And one of the experiences of life is one's expressive creativity and offsprings and children and sex and things like that, right? So that's why the fifth house was like that. That's why it's set up like that. That's what it is. But anyways, the sixth house is the house that deals with. Hold on, give me a sec. The sixth house is the house that deals with work. It's a house of wealth, and the sixth house is what you need to do to acquire wealth. Like the energies you need to align yourself align yourself with in order for you to acquire wealth, right? So the second house is the wealth itself, but then the sixth house is the work you need to engage into to create that wealth. And so you have your sixth house within the sign Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, right? Which is interesting. Both your second and your sixth house are ruled by the planet Mars. And so Aries is a very solo dolo type of energy, right? We already talked a little bit about Aries. Aries is a very like self-sufficient, self-reliant type of energy. So a sixth house in Aries can point towards doing work where you need to be the boss and you need to be like entrepreneurial work, like a lot of the times, because Aries is a very competitive and a very aggressive energy, a lot of the times when Aries is in the sixth house, there can kind of be this energy of not respecting or not wanting to deal with like bosses, like not wanting a boss, rather being your own boss. And possibly even there may be this manifestation of the past experiences you had where work is concerned. You may have kind of clashed with your boss, or you may have kind of clashed with your boss, or like with your manager or with your leader. Where the sixth house energy is concerned, where labor, where work life is concerned, you kind of want to take the initiative and you kind of want to lead. And that's why, like, you don't want others to lead you, right? Like with the Aries energy being here. And so where Mars is of great significance and of great value as well. And you have Mars in Libra in the 12th. Girl, your chart just keeps getting interesting and interesting and interesting. Like, damn, out of all the signs you could have had it in, it had to be Libra. Like, because now that just kind of complicates things a little. You feel what I'm saying? But one thing it does is it kind of brings a little bit more like stability, a little bit more stability into that energy of work, where it's like you may kind of be a little bit tolerant with being told what to do and all that type of energy, but simultaneously at the same time with Aries being in the sixth house, like let's see where you have the 10th house, because the 10th house is the house of career, and you have your 10th house in Leo, so that settles it. So like with you having these energies, right, there is like a bit more and then you have your 9th house, and when you have your sun in the 9th house in the sign of Cancer, 25 degrees, okay, you have your moon in the 8th house, okay. Like, yeah, looking at these energies, it's kind of like where work for rather than working for others, like entrepreneurship may be one of those things that may be advantageous for you, for what I'm saying, with the 6th house in Aries. Now, Aries work typically it can be something that deals with the mind and deals with working with the mind, right? Because Aries is a very mental sign. but simultaneously it can even possibly encompass things like labor, physical labor, because Aries being ruled by Mars deals with muscles, but you having Mars in Libra kind of adds more into that energy of possibly dealing with work, where maybe like you're working with other people, or you're working with like letters and literature and just information in general. You feel what I'm saying? But yeah, with Libra, I mean, with Aries being in the sixth house, like Aries is more of a masculine sign. It's the masculine expression of Mars, so it deals with overcoming things. So the obstacles and challenges that may be faced within the work life, they're put there so then you can overcome them. Like your ability to cultivate bravery and courage is going to be very, very like promising or prominent where like your sixth house or your workout life is concerned. But I would say that pretty much is that. I definitely do look forward to your feedback, and peace, 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 peace. Talk to you soon. Namaste.